Dear audience, dear chair, let me present my PhD topic, which is about investigating very preterm neonates. My name is Vivien Unger. I'm a final year pediatric resident and also a PhD student at the Center of Translational Medicine. I'm working in Veszprém in the Csolnoky Ferenc Hospital. My supervisors are Péter Varga and Ákos Gasparics. My vision is to provide the highest quality of care to the very preterm infants, and for this my mission is to find the optimal mode of delivery and to provide timely and accurate data about peri-viable infants in Hungary. Here you can see my two ongoing projects. The first one is a meta-analysis and systematic review, which is about investigating the relation between the mode of delivery and mortality and morbidity among very preterm infants. Let's start with the first one. Approximately 15 million babies born preterm annually worldwide, indicating a global preterm birth rate of about 11%. Very preterm neonates account for 35% of neonatal morbidity. Very preterm infants who born before the 32nd gestational week are at high risk for death, medical complications, and neurodevelopmental sequelae. The optimal mode of delivery for them is still unknown. This topic has been a hot topic in perinatal medicine, although we still don't know what to do at the time of decision making in some cases. We know that the rate of cesarean section is high and has been rising all over the world, although it is not proven whether it's effective or not to reduce mortality among these babies. We know that there are many complications that might arise from C-section, such as delayed neonatal lung liquid absorption, neonatal gut dysbiosis, and higher rates of maternal morbidities, although prolonged labor, birth asphyxia may occur, which is a non-risk factor for intraventricular hemorrhage. As we heard before from Zsuzsa, that intraventricular hemorrhage rate can be up to 35% of neonates born before the 32nd gestational week. It's crucial to find out whether C-section have a role to decrease the mortality rates among these babies. To formulate our clinical question, we use the PICO framework. We investigate babies born before the 32nd gestational week, and we are going to compare actual and planned C-section and vaginal birth, and to find out the mortality rates and some other early complications. According to our hypothesis, C-section decreases neonatal mortality rates and the occurrence of early morbidities. We ran a systematic search in 2022 November, resulting in 21 eligible articles included in the meta-analysis and systematic review part. Here you can see our first forest plot. In this and in the upcoming ones, we use odds ratio as a measure of effect. If odds ratio is 1, it means that there is no difference between the two groups, namely between C-section and vaginal birth. If odds ratio is below 1, it means that babies who born via C-section have decreased mortality rates than babies who born via vaginal birth. Here in this forest plot, we investigated the reason of planned C-section and planned vaginal birth of neonatal mortality and in-hospital mortality rates. As you can see, this plot suggesting that there is no difference between the two groups, although there is a high heterogeneity between the populations, because it included not only singleton, but also twin pregnancies. Therefore, we were able to make a subgroup analysis based on the presentation of the baby and based on the parity. In this plot, you can see the relation between the planned vaginal births and planned C-section on the rate of singleton, breech, and vertex pregnancies. In the first 4 articles, they included only singleton, breech pregnancies. Odds ratio is 0.56, which means that babies who born via C-section have almost 50% decreased mortality rates among those babies who born via vaginal birth. This is a statistically and a clinically significant result. If we analyzed separately the twin gestations, we found a totally opposite effect, which was a surprising result. You can see that odds ratio is 1.77, which might suggest us that babies who born via vaginal birth have decreased mortality rates. This is not a statistically significant result, and we have to deal it with precautions because of the heterogeneity of this population as well, and because of the low number of studies. Now let's move on to one of the most important early outcomes, the intraventricular hemorrhage. We investigated here the occurrence of severe intraventricular hemorrhage, namely the grade 3 and 4 IVH based on Papai's grading, and the connection of planned mode of deliveries. Here you can see that we didn't found significant difference between the two groups. I just want to highlight you all of our results. In case of singleton breech pregnancies, we found significant decrease in the mortality rates if baby is born via actual or planned C-section. And here is the conclusion of our study. We investigated only low-risk pregnancies. We excluded those when there was any kind of fetal or maternal comprise necessitating an emergency C-section. We investigated planned and actual mode of deliveries and also singleton and twin pregnancies. In case of vertex singleton pregnancies, our findings align together with the recent guidelines. Although in case of breech pregnancies, we found in the guidelines nationally that they only advise to perform a C-section if there is any kind of maternal or fetal comprise. But we included only articles that excluded this population. So maybe a revision of these guidelines is necessary. In case of twin population, we can't conclude to choose vaginal birth or C-section, but there is definitely more data are needed in the future. Sorry. Of course, we had limitations and some strengths. All of the studies were cohort studies and mostly retrospective ones, arising from this high risk of bias. And we just realized that there are different definitions of some outcomes, for example, in bronchopulmonary dysplasia. But we could include high number of patients. We were able to do a detailed subset analysis, and we included only low-risk pregnancies. I have just submitted my manuscript to an internal review, and I'm waiting for the answer for that. And let's move on to the second topic, which is going to be a registry analysis based on the Hungarian NICU database. The definition of the limit of viability says that the ability of the fetus to survive outside the womb when supported by the most advanced medical care. There has been a change over time in the limit. In the 1980s, it was around the 28th gestational week. Meanwhile, 40 years later, it decreased to the 22nd, 24th gestational week. Although this definition doesn't consider the chances of survival and the survivor's quality of life. Therefore, we have to know the other limit at which a preterm baby survives and they have a good quality of life. The gray zone is set between two boundaries. The lower limit is the absolute limit. Under this, preterm babies barely survive. This is around the 22nd gestational week. And the other one, the upper one that I mentioned, where they have a good quality of life in the future. To manage these babies properly who are born between this gray zone, need to make hard ethical and medical decisions, not only for the healthcare providers, but also for the parents as well. Therefore, we need our own and up-to-date data about these babies to provide accurate data for them and to have the chance to make good decisions for these babies. So our aim is to perform a registry analysis based on the Hungarian NICU database. We are planning to analyze a 10-year-long period, and after hopefully we will see whether we were, for example, able to improve in the management of these periviable infants. Here you can see the summary of my two ongoing projects, and I would like to finish my presentation with a quote from "Little spark may burst a flame." Thank you for your attention.
Regarding the first project, you mentioned that there is a strength of your study that you included mainly low-risk pregnancies. What does it mean, low-risk pregnancy, in a case of preterm birth? So preterm birth is a high-risk delivery. How did you define low-risk pregnancy in the case of preterm birth?
According to our knowledge, we define low-risk pregnancies. So we excluded cases if they included cases from placental abruption or preeclampsia. So those cases, we wanted to exclude those cases when there is a necessity to perform an emergency C-section. So there is no point to make a decision whether it's safe to go for a vaginal birth or maybe, for example, for a previous C-section, go for a planned C-section. So we tried, and I think we could exclude those studies that included pregnancies that were complicated by maternal preeclampsia, hypertension, and placental abruption, like hemorrhage.
Okay, thank you. There is many systematic review on this topic.
There are.
I think, okay. Your result differs in any aspect from the earlier studies?
Actually, yes, because the previous meta-analysis is conducting on this topic, investigating only very preterm pregnancies. They didn't exclude this population that we did. So,
and what was the difference?
The results?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the latest meta-analysis on this topic came out in 2023 November, unfortunately. So they included almost the same articles that we did, like it was 5 articles were the difference, they found the same. So they found that in case of breech pregnancies, C-section definitely decreases the odds of death, just like in 1 or 2% differences. And they didn't find significant differences in case of singleton pregnancies. But they didn't investigate the twin population.
Great.
So we included also the twins.
Thank you.
You mentioned that in some cases, for the physicians, it must be suggested that maybe cesarean section will be preferable. It's compared to the vaginal birth. Okay, you are just focused on the short-term outcomes, but what about the long terms?
We tried to focus on them, for example, a 2-year-long follow-up times, but only 2 articles mentioned them. We have data, but we couldn't do a meta-analysis from them. They were doing sensitivity analysis, taking into account whether it was a really preterm or born at the 24th gestational age, or a bigger one born at the 30th gestational age, because it can differ. And they didn't found a significant difference between the 2 modalities.
Okay, it's fine, but I really recommend to just try to focus or just extend your work, because we already know that if you are born with cesarean section, then you have also handicapped during your whole life. Just think about microbiome and so on.
Yes.
Okay.
These questions were related, these results were related to neurological complications, such as...
Of course, these are the most important, of course.
Thank you.